Hey everybody, I'm going to read y'all some creepy stories and they're kind of scary to me, so I'm hoping that they are also scary to you. The first one I'm going to read is the clown statue. Alright. So-and-so's friend, a girl in her teens, is babysitting for a family in Newport Beach, California. The family is wealthy and has a very large house. You know the sort, with a ridiculous amount of rooms. Anyway, the parents are going out for a late dinner and a movie. The father tells the babysitter that once the children are in bed, she should go into the specific room. He doesn't really want her wandering around the house, though, but to watch TV in there. The parents take off, and soon she gets the kids into bed and goes to the room to watch TV. She tries watching it, but she is disturbed by a clown statue in the corner of the room. She tries to ignore it for as long as possible, but it starts freaking her out so much that she can't handle it. She resorts to calling the father and asks, "Hey, the kids are in bed, but is it okay if I switch rooms? The clown statue is really creeping me out." The father says, "Seriously, get the kids, go next door and call 911." She asks, "What's going on?" He responds, "Just go next door, and once you call the police, call me back." She gets the kids, goes next door, and calls the police. When the police are on the way, she calls the father back and asks, "So, really, what's going on?" He responds, "We don't have a clown statue." He then further explains that the children have been complaining about a clown watching them as they sleep. He and his wife had just blown it off, assuming that they were having nightmares. The police arrived and apprehended the clown, who turns out to be a midget. A midget clown? I guess he was some homeless person dressed as a clown, who somehow got into the house and had been living there for several weeks. He would come into the kids' rooms at night and watch them while they slept. As the house was so large, he was able to avoid detection, surviving off their food, etc. He had been in the TV room right before the babysitter had came in there. When she entered, he didn't have enough time to hide, so he just froze in place and pretended to be a statue. Creepy. All right. The next one is the dead boyfriend. This one looks just loverly. All right. Well, if I can get it to come up. Okay. A girl and her boyfriend are making out in his car. They had parked in the woods so no one would see them. When they were done, the boy got out to pee and the girl waited for him in the safety of the car. Smart move. After waiting 5 minutes, the girl got out of the car to look for her boyfriend. Suddenly, she sees a man in the shadows. Scared, she gets back in the car to drive away when she hears a very faint squeak, squeak. This continued for several seconds until the girl decided she had no choice but to drive off. Honey, I'd have been gone a long time ago. She hit the gas as hard as possible but couldn't go anywhere because someone had tied a rope to the bumper of the car to a nearby tree. Well, the girl slams on the gas again and then hears a loud scream. She gets out of the car and realizes that her boyfriend is hanging from the tree. The squeaky noises were his shoes slightly scraping across the top of the car. A woman and her boyfriend were on their way home from somewhere one night, and suddenly his car ran out of gas. It was about 1 in the morning, and they were completely alone in the middle of nowhere. "Not us," said the hen. The guy stepped out of the car, saying comfortingly to his girlfriend, "Don't worry, I'll be right back. I'm just going to go out for some help, so lock the doors, though." She locked the doors and sat restlessly, waiting for her boyfriend to come back, when suddenly she sees a shadow fall across her lap. She looks up to see not her boyfriend, but a strange, crazed-looking man. He's swinging something in his right hand. He sticks his face close to the window and slowly pulls up his right hand. In it is her boyfriend's decapitated head, twisted horribly in pain and shock. She shuts her eyes in horror and tries to make the image go away. When she opens her eyes, the man is still there, grinning psychotically. He slowly lifts his left hand and he is holding her boyfriend's keys to the car. Okay, this next one is a little bit longer. It is called The Russian Sleep Experiment. Toward the end of the 1940s, the Soviet researchers sealed 5 prison inmates in an airtight chamber and closed them and dosed them with an experimental stimulant gas to test the effects of prolonged sleep deprivation. Their behavior was observed via two-way mirrors and their conversations monitored electronically. They were promised their freedom if they could go entirely without sleep for 30 days. Do what? The first few days of the experiment passed uneventfully. By the 5th day, however, the subjects began showing signs of stress and were overheard bemoaning their circumstances. They stopped conversing with their fellow inmates, choosing instead to whisper compromising information about one another into the microphones, apparently in an effort to win the favor of the researchers. Paranoia sets in. On the 9th day, the screaming began. First one subject, then another, was observed running around the chamber screaming at the top of his lungs for hours on end. Equally disconcerting was the reaction of the quieter subjects, who began ripping apart the books they'd been given to read, smearing the pages with feces and plastering them over the mirrored windows so their actions could no longer be observed. Just then, as suddenly, the screaming stopped. The subjects ceased communicating altogether. 3 long days passed without a sound from inside the chamber. Fearing the worst, the researchers addressed the subjects via the intercom. "We are opening the chamber to test the microphones," they said. "Step away from the door and lie flat on the floor or you will be shot. Compliance will earn one of you your immediate freedom." A voice from inside answered, "We no longer want to be freed." 2 more days passed without contact of any kind as the scientists debated what to do next. Finally, they decided to terminate the experiment. At the midnight on the 15th day, the stimulant gas was flushed from the chamber and replaced with fresh air in preparation for the subject's release. Far from being pleased at the prospect of leaving the chamber, the subjects began screaming as if in fear for their lives. They begged to have the gas turned back on. Instead, the researchers unleashed the door to the chamber and sent armed soldiers in to retrieve them. Nothing could have prepared them for the carnage they witnessed upon entering. One subject was found dead, lying face down in 6 inches of bloody water. Chunks of his flesh had been torn off and stuffed into the floor drain. All the test subjects were found to have been severely mutilated, in fact. What's worse, the wounds appeared to be self-inflicted. They had ripped open their own abdomens and disemboweled themselves with their bare hands. Some had even eaten their own flesh. The 4 who were still alive seemed terrified of falling asleep and refused to leave the chamber again, pleading with the researchers to turn the gas back on. When the soldiers attempted to remove the inmates by force, they fought back so ferociously they couldn't believe their eyes. One suffered a ruptured spleen and lost so much blood there was literally nothing left for his heart to pump, yet continued flailing for a full 3 minutes until his lifeless body collapsed. The remaining subjects were restrained and transported to a medical facility for treatment. The first to be operated on fought so furiously against being anesthetized that he tore muscle and broke bones during the struggle. As soon as the anesthetic took effect, his heart stopped and he died. The rest underwent surgery without sedation. Far from feeling any pain, however, they laughed hysterically on the operating table, so hysterically that the doctors, perhaps fearing for their own sanity, administered a paralytic agent to immobilize them. After the surgery, the survivors were asked why they had mutilated themselves and why they so desperately wanted to go back on the stimulant gas. Each in turn gave the same answer: "I must remain awake." The researchers considered euthanizing them to obliterate any trace of the failed experiment, but were overruled by their commanding officer, who ordered that it be resumed immediately, with 3 of the researchers joining the inmates in the sealed chamber. Horrified at the prospect, the chief researcher pulled out a pistol and shot the commanding officer point blank. He then turned and shot one of the 2 surviving subjects. Pointing his gun at the last one left alive, he asked, "What are you? I must know." "Have you forgotten so easily?" the subject said, smiling. "Who are you? We are you. We are the madness that lurks within you all, begging to be set free at every moment in your deepest animal mind. We are what you hide from in your beds every night. We are what you sedate into silence and paralysis when you go to the nocturnal haven where we cannot tread." The researcher fired a bullet into his heart. The EEG monitor flatlined as the subject muttered these last words: "So nearly free." Okay, Well, that was lovely, wasn't it? Hmm. Well, I think that's about all I'm going to read you today. That was disturbing, yes. Well, I guess I'll look for some more scary stories. I don't know if you liked them. I don't know if you detested them or if you were hating them. But that was kind of gross and, like I said, quite disturbing. So I think I will see you later.